Yeah, okay. No. Co- Yes.
Look at this. Come from.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Going to go ahead and get started. We're here to talk about water conservation and water reduction program for the city of Ripon. Currently, the governor has put out an executive order that was on April 1st of this year, mandating the reduction of 36% of urban potable water use. They also included that commercial, industrial, and institutional potable water use must be reduced to meet those same requirements as a local jurisdiction, which would be 36% in our case. Also prohibited the use of watering of irrigation for ornamental turf and street medians. Prohibit of using potable water for irrigation outside new homes without drip or micro spray systems, and requiring cities to implement tiered water rates. Our past water use is the 36% is going to be based on what we used in 2013. That's the state's base year. I've included a chart showing our water use for 2013, 2014, and the reductions, in some cases the increase, but majority of the decreases in water use for 2014, and then where we sit in 2015 as it compares to 2013. And other than January, which was kind of an unusual year, the 2013 number it was a little bit skewed, but it is what it is. We had some industrial users that kind of changed their operation, which kind of skewed the numbers. But anyway, from February, March, and April, we're running 24, 21, and 19%. So far, we've seen a lot of between things the city has done, and we've been noticing a lot more participation, or a lot more folks observing the water restrictions and throughout town. We still there's a lot that aren't. So currently, our mandatory water conservation measures include the prohibiting of washing of driveways, sidewalks, patios, parking lots, and such. The use of water for washing vehicles and boats, recreation vehicles, and cleaning buildings exterior is only allowed with automatic shut-off valve. We do not, and that's the cleaning of buildings are used for the use of automatic shut-off valves and washing vehicles. All water leaks, breaks, and malfunctions shall be repaired within 24 hours of noticing the leaks. Draining and refilling of pools, spas, and ponds shall only be allowed for health, maintenance, and structural considerations. This has to be approved by the city before doing it. We have been contacted by 2 individuals that have had to drain their pools for structural purposes, and we've given them okay. I think there's been a lot more that nobody's come in and asked permission, but it is one of the requirements. No watering between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., and residents are only allowed to water three days per week. Those are our current regulations. The penalties, I'm sorry, I'm not forwarding. Our current penalties There we go, sorry. Our current penalties are $25 for the first violation, $50 for the second, $100 for the third, and $200 for the fourth offense. Last year, because it was the first year getting involved, it wasn't as critical as it is this year. We didn't issue any citations. We issued quite a few. I think it was like 300 notices, warning notices. Most of the time, when a person got the warning notice, they corrected the problem. However, at the beginning of this year, after the irrigation controllers were shut off for the season, seems like a lot of them got reprogrammed, and they've been all off. So we've issued not as many as last year to date, but we have issued quite a few warning notices. We've only had, I think, four second repeaters after a phone call. Those folks have pretty much come into compliance. The things that the city has done from a city perspective on reducing or conserving water, we have reduced our parks and landscape watering approximately 15%. We don't have meters on our parks. We're currently in the process of putting meters on all our parks so we can get a good handle of how much water we use, but our estimations based on what we've previously used for the times and what we're currently used and the ET-based models, we've saved 15 to 18%. But so we've done quite a bit in our own parks to reduce. It's way far from the 36% that the governor's requiring. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I noticed that everything's can't water between 10 and 6. Now, is that because that's when it evaporates the fastest? Okay.
That is correct. Yes.
Because it seems like if everybody watered at the same time, your pressure would drop. Maybe not. I'm not an engineer, but
we have a pretty good system, water system with keeping the pressure, especially with the elevated tanks. That helps out considerably. So we haven't seen that problem. Same as the 3 days a week and not watering on Mondays. But so we haven't seen that. But it is so that we don't get evaporation. And those numbers can change too. I mean, those are things that some cities have different times. We set those times because they seem to be more practical. Mm-hmm. So all of our small parks and landscaped areas have been reduced to 3 days a week, the same as everybody else. Some of the changes that we've made this year versus last year. Last year we were watering 3 days a week, but we watered Monday, Wednesday, and Friday because of the fact we're here. We can use that time to check our sprinklers, make sure we don't have broken sprinklers, and then make adjustments accordingly. One of the problems we've seen during doing this is some folks were seeing us water on Mondays and saying, hey, the city's not following their own regulations. So we have made that change to where now we are watering 3 days a week, water on the weekends. And even though there's a risk of possibly using more water, we figured for the public perception it was best to do that. Yes.
When you think about it, though, it kind of makes sense to do that because people want to use the parks on the weekends too, so maybe we ought to think about that.
It is something to consider. Most of the parks that we're talking about are the small parks, Veterans Park, library, those smaller parks.
Nobody uses those?
Typically, they don't use them, but we're watering in the middle. We are watering in the middle of the night, so it's not as critical. We felt originally that we wanted to be there. We wanted to see it. If there's a problem, it was best for us to water the days we were working. But we have made those modifications for public perception, so that that we are following our own regulations. It has kind of limited us and tied our hands in some ways. The other is following the water limitations, which was between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. That's gotten very difficult for us. That means we have to check our sprinklers, between 7 and 10, really kind of limit that window. But we've directed our staff not to water after 10 a.m. for public perception. Yes, Steve?
So, our new meter maid or meter man, whatever he's gonna be, obviously, he's gonna be, oh, hi, I didn't mean to call you meter maid. Just thought Is he, obviously, he'll be working those hours, so maybe we can also install time for him to watch that stuff too.
Yes.
Or you already had that idea?
It's
So
a
I
little bit
wasn't a
further.
genius?
You are, yes. I was going to introduce our new employee a little bit further down the road.
Okay.
here, so,
I didn't know he was the new guy, so.
yeah,
I do have one thing
yes, Leo.
on that. I realize that our people may, want to work 8 to 5 or 7:30 to 4:30 or whatever. I think at some point we may have to take some employees and say, you're gonna work from 4 to 2 in the afternoon or something. If we start having these kinds of problems, we can't sit here and try to keep a world in one set of boxes when it's going to heck in a handbasket outside that box, and the idea is we don't wanna spend money. I don't agree with that. I don't think you have to bust the budget, but I think if there's a problem, we gotta go fix it. We can't just sit back and say, we don't have anybody working that day, or we can't do this, or we can't do that. We need to look at that kind of stuff.
There has been some discussion on that, possibly one or two individuals doing that. We haven't gotten any further in discussion, but it's something we are
okay.
looking into.
There's probably some people that would love to go to work at 4 AM. That ain't me, but there are people that actually like that kind of
Like a
shift.
flex time.
Yeah, yeah.
We,
Or you just have them on call, and if something comes up, they're gonna go, and you're gonna pay them overtime or something. We've gotta be flexible.
for the broken sprinklers and the calls or those type of things, and they're reported to us, we do come out and repair them with our standby folks. But for the day-to-day checking of the sprinklers and making sure that they're all functioning, they haven't come out of adjustment, so we're wasting water, those are the things that we're kind of limited on. So we can modify our schedule. We do that on a regular basis for different things, so we can do that.
The neighbor around the corner always tells me when my water sprinkler broke.
They're not broke.
Sounds like you're in the $200 range.
Okay. How do we meet these 35% reductions? Some options to consider. Some city operational changes that we're proposing is, one is to reduce the citywide water pressure by 10 PSI. Currently we produce between 60 and 65 PSI on our system. Part of it is to fill our tanks, to use the tanks to their full potential. Most cities are running 45 to 50 range. So by lowering our pressure 10 PSI, we can actually save some money. We don't know save some water, money also, but water primarily.
How does that happen? If you just let your water run longer, are you using the same amount of water?
With,
It makes sense logically, but I don't see how that would.
if you're, especially when it comes to leaving your shower on, your water running, the more higher the pressure, the more water you use.
See, I don't do any of that, so, okay.
Yeah.
You don't shower?
We've.
I'm just curious, because, if you turn it off and things like that, you would just let it run longer, but maybe I'm not seeing the whole thing. Okay, never mind.
It will save some money. We don't have a quantifiable number as of yet, but it's one of the options. Most cities run 45 to 50 PSI, so it's something we can try to save some money. To remove the turf in city medians and roundabouts, governor's mandate not to use potable water to irrigate grass and medians. We feel we may need to address that, because we have we believe our roundabouts would be considered medians. We have some parkways that go between frontage roads and a road we're kind of waiting to hear from the state on, is that considered by their definition a median? But these are turf areas that we can pull out and put different landscaping in, or possibly artificial turf, or just for this time and to get us by, possibly just wood chips or bark. So, Dean?
State gonna fund that, or help fund that?
The state has set aside some money at the state level, but it's our understanding that it's gonna be for, Kevin, help me out with the term, disadvantaged communities, so.
Well,
So Stockton gets it all.
When it's only like 1/10 of 1% of all the grass in the state is covered by that thing, so it's not worth thinking about.
No,
but as far as wood chips go, I don't know if anybody's aware of it, but we have well, I shouldn't say we, but the golf course has a lot of wood chips. They've been chipping up the down trees and stuff up there, for some company's been doing it for them, I don't know who it is, but they've got piles and piles and piles of wood chips. So if that's what we decide to do, that might be an avenue.
So that strip, like between Fulton and the frontage road in the Meritage area, that is still up for discussion as to whether that's gonna count or not, because I was wondering the same thing.
it depends on what the definition is.
Okay.
It's one of those areas that we can look at, replacing. We have another one that's over in the Cornerstone subdivision that we actually have a maintenance district, and we have money there that we can actually possibly put artificial turf in, which would help out with water. But you're talking, small amounts of water, but all of it adds up.
Big help, yeah.
But Ted, if you did something like that, not the artificial, because that's kind of expensive, but, if we did something else that wasn't quite as expensive, the maintenance is less, you kind of pay for it over time and not have to pay the maintenance people to do the work, I guess.
There is some maintenance considerations that can be used on that. I think for right now, the idea is get rid of the turf and possibly temporarily put bark in until we put something else in. But until we get the definition from the state, we're kind of got that on hold. One of the things that's, it wouldn't be real popular, but is the elimination of water parks and fountains. There is a certain amount of evaporation that's lost, or water that's lost from evaporation. We've just now installed a meter on the interactive fountain at Midland Sports Park. Found out that we're using probably 2,000 gallons a day just from evaporation, along with we drain 500 gallons a day to keep the water quality so that the kids can come in, that it's safe for kids to come in contact with. But those are the type things. We don't know how much the other one uses, but we're assuming we're using maybe 1,000 gallons a day.
Ted, I just have a quick comment on that. Going back to the optics of it earlier, I think that's one of the first things in my mind that's going to have to be eliminated is if they see this type of recreational use, non-emergency type of water usage. I mean, it's great to have the fountains running and it's great to have the water park at Midland running, but I think those are more wants than needs at this point in time. And I think we got to really trim the fat when it comes to that stuff. And like you said earlier, if we let that go, you guys will be receiving calls left and right. What are you guys still doing running the fountain? What are you guys still doing running this and that? So I think that's might be one thing that we look at, and just to eliminate a headache right off the bat.
Well, if that meter reading's right, that just totally guts the argument that recirculating the water makes it okay. I mean, that's crazy. 2,000 gallons a day?
Yeah.
Just that one little part?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if you put a switch on there, or not a switch, but a button that,
It's evaporation.
Yeah.
I know, but it wouldn't run, if it's running all the time, if it's sitting down in the pipes, it's not gonna evaporate, right? I'm just thinking that you could put a button on there, if the family comes out there and wants to run through it, you push a button, it runs for 10 minutes.
Well, no,
We have modified the schedule to actually help reduce some of this. And these numbers are estimates based on the summer use. Right now, You know, I think it could get up to 2,500 gallons a day. We've only had a couple meter readings since we put it in, which kind of shocked us. We had no idea, but we wanted to find out what that actual number was. So we put a meter on, and we're watching it and kind of go get an average to verify that. But our preliminary numbers are showing about 2,000 gallons a day.
Yeah. Ted, so you said it was 2,000 due to evaporation and then an additional 500?
No, that's included.
That's included in it. Okay, good. I wanted to make sure I was getting my numbers correct. Okay.
We do need to drain it periodically to keep the water quality. There's only 500 gallons that's continuously recirculated. And if you don't drain that tank, what happens is the water quality in that tank, even though how much chemicals you put in, is just becomes a potential health issue, so.
Do we need to run those fountains just every now and then just to make sure that it's like an old car sitting in the driveway. If you don't go out and start it up and take it around the block every now and then, it's gonna break down, seals, et cetera?
We did find that out when we turned it off for the winter. The first time, there was issues when we turned them back on, so we cycled them on the weekends. We would have them run on the weekends just for that purpose.
Yeah.
So that is another option to reduce the amount.
Yeah.
And just have them on the weekends. But it's a very popular, especially the Midland Sports Park fountain is very popular. We get a lot of people from all over, a lot of folks from out of town come in to use that on a regular basis.
I think if we could just watch when these fountains are on and off, to me, you look at a fountain that's been turned off permanently, and it's just like, you know, I just think that maybe if we could come up with a schedule for weekends, like you said, out at Midland Park for the kids, maybe just from 12 to 4 on Saturdays, and same thing on Sundays or something. I think people realize they'll see the fountains turned off the majority of the time, and I think the Ripponites are, you know, they realize we have to save some water, but yet, you know, where do you draw the line? Or you can just, they'll see what the city's doing and the rest of the community's doing, and I think they'll realize that the fountains are just being used periodically just to enhance what's going on in town, so.
Until they find out that it's 2,000 gallons a day to have that thing on Saturday and Sunday. The other place where pressure will build is effective June 1st until August 1st. It's a 7-day weekend for those kids. There is no Saturday and Sunday.
But you're right, I mean, 2,000 gallons a day and you don't let me water my lawn. I mean,
There you go. Those are the kinds of things I'm hearing more and more and more from people, is that.
And the thing is, I'm kind of with you, Leo, I don't know what the answer is, but I think, you know, we take hard steps now, because what happens if we don't, and then we gotta take harder steps later, I don't mean hard or negative, just we need to, it's gonna be a lot worse than taking it down and bringing it back than it is to slowly take everything down. Just my opinion, but. And I don't know, I mean, you're talking 2,000 gallons, I mean, is that a big deal in this overall scheme of things that we're talking about, or is that one piece of what we're talking about?
Not really, it's not. However, every little bit helps, and it's, public perception is a huge part of this.
What's a 10-minute shower? How many gallons does a 10-minute, 5-minute shower take, just for curiosity?
I
Depends on
don't,
what kind of shower head you have.
Well, if Mary sprays you off on the front lawn, you can get 2 things out of one.
That's happened before.
I don't have those numbers. We can certainly come up with
Curious,
those.
'cause I gotta imagine, you know, some people that take long showers, me, I take a quick shower.
But I think as we get into this, those are the kinds of things we're gonna have to figure out. I mean, down to the point that if you run a sprinkler for 10 minutes, how much water do you use? Now, take that times the number of sprinklers in your yard, and when you water your yard for 10 minutes, that's how much you use. We're gonna have to start getting past this idea of you should do it because it's a good idea. There's gotta be more to it than that.
The shower heads are about 3 gallons a minute.
3 gallons a minute?
That's not too bad.
Is that a reduced one or a regular one?
The regular ones are about 4 gallons a minute, the reduced ones are about 2.5
How
gallons
about the
a minute.
big cans? But that's assuming you're keeping it running the entire time. If you turn it off and lather up and turn it back on.
Yeah,
that's
it's
different.
just-
But you know, one of the things you made a comment last time, I think we all agree with. You know, I think it's just making people aware. I mean, I still talk to people that kind of think there's a drought but don't really know it. You know, I mean, it's more educating people about how much are we using? What are we doing? You know, what really has an impact? I mean, the
And practicing what you preach.
Exactly, yeah, showing them we're doing it too.
I think with all the national or the state media, I think the message is getting out there. There's still a lot more to do, and we've got some ideas how we're going to tackle those.
Well, on the
But-
news tonight, there was a 10-minute thing on the news about a water line in Folsom that broke.
Uh-oh.
I mean, it was just a supply line to a restaurant. They called, took 3.5 hours for the city to get somebody out there to fix it.
Imagine all the water
And-
lost.
And then the guy they put on there to explain why it took so long did not do anybody any favors. They were all over them by the time it was over. You know, I mean, it's that kind of stuff.
I still think, Ted, there's people out to say, you know, I don't need to because someone else will conserve. I mean, I just think there are people that are like that. And it's my backyard or it's in my house and no one will see it anyway. I think people need to take this serious. I'm very concerned. I really am.
I agree.
Especially when we're back in DC and it rains one night. All of us looked out, we didn't know what it was.
Somebody left a sprinkler.
Some of the options for residential regulatory changes, because of the fact that, you know, how do you save, if we're running, say, 20% savings now, how do you get to that, you know, that 35, that extra 15%? Some of the other cities, I think Councilman Winchell just passed out a article from Modesto B. It looks like the Modesto is going to two-day watering. That's one of the options that we've thrown out on the table. The issue with two-day watering, whether it's 3 days, you can still get the same amount of water on the grass. You can bump the time. So you depending on how you set it. The thing is, what we've seen when we started implementing 3 days a week, people started cutting back. They didn't necessarily use the same amount of water as they were before, so it did help quite a bit. So reducing to 2 days a week is an option to look at. Also increasing the penalties. That's more of the fear factor. To go from $100 for the first offense, $200 for second offense, $500 for the third, and $1,000 for the fourth. What that would do is get people's attention a little bit more when they read it. Maybe makes them throws the fear factor into the equation. Yes.
So, you know, we say back 2 days a week, but if somebody waters 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, 3 hours at night, twice a week, that may be more than they're watering now. I mean, theoretically. Do we know what the minimum, Larry probably knows, the minimum amount needed? I mean, are we saying that if you water our lawn twice a week, it'll at least keep it alive until maybe water comes back? Or is that too little to even keep it alive? Or can it use less than that? I mean, do we know?
There are guides that's based on ET, the actual requirements of the plant, that tells you how much water that plant has to have. So you can establish. That's one of the things we're going to be using our water conservation coordinator to help trying to educate residents of how much water they actually need. And there's some charts, and it can be done on a daily basis also.
I guess it probably depends on the soil content and all the other stuff that's there too.
Soil, type of lawn.
You know, if we had a contest in town, the person with the brownest lawn wins.
There's
You
already
know, $50,000. I bet you somebody would.
yeah.
I got an email today I can't believe I'm the only one that got
Oh, the
this
lady.
email.
The lady
That
in
lady.
Chesapeake Landing?
Chester,
We all
yeah.
got it.
And if you read that, that to me made sense. If you go to 2 days, people are gonna water longer, you're just gonna get way more waste. And I think realistically, I think you could water every day, but just tell everybody they can only water 2 minutes a day, twice a day, or 3 times a day, you might be better off. I mean, I don't think the days have anything to do with it. I think You know what I mean? I think.
Yeah, that won't work, but
right.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying what to do,
Well,
but I'm
but
just saying,
The
you know.
the key to that, and the key to a lot of this, is the water meters.
Well, yeah,
Because until we can look at somebody and say, in this period of time, you use this amount of water,
yeah.
we're, we're toothless. We
Do-
can tell, or unless he camps out in front of their house for 3 days and watches what they do. I mean, and we literally are probably gonna have to do that with some of the people I've seen. But
And you know,
there's a limit to how far we can go right now.
well, no, that's true. Can some of it be, because I know that, you know, in our neighborhood, I mean, the lawns and the landscaping are designed so funny. You know, when you spray, you're watering half a sidewalk anyway. So I mean, are there kind of like, because sprinkler heads aren't that expensive for somebody that maybe doesn't have a lot of money to put artificial turf or something like that. I mean, are there better sprinklers that can do that?
Yes,
That
yes,
people
sir.
cannot spend very much money, at least get better
I
coverage?
just went out and spent $11, and now I get almost no water
Okay, there you go.
on my driveway,
There you go.
because I got those adjustable ones, because my
Yeah.
driveway curves, and you just aim them so that they're right. and it
Problem is, we
stays-
have a rounded piece and nothing
Right.
seems to work well, but
you
yeah,
can.
but you can, yeah.
There are quite a bit more efficient spray heads. They're a little bit more expensive, but there's one product called MP Rotator, which kind of has fingers that shoot out, much more efficient, and can save quite a bit of money, a little bit more expensive, but those are the type of things the cities itself has, new projects have been putting in to reduce water, but there are those deals. I did miss an item where we talked about what the city has done, and that is the installation of water meters, residential. Mayor Zuber pointed this out. That is one of the things that will help everybody if we have water meters. That, the council had elected to push that forward, didn't have to have them in till 2025. Council elected to get those done as soon as possible, and that project is on its way, is being worked on, and is scheduled to go out to bid in, Kevin, correct me if I didn't write down my notes, in June. June, be awarded in September, or October, August, and then start meters being put in November, and then hopefully done within 6 months. So well, we're really, our engineering department's really pushing forward with that project to get those meters in, which we know will help out. The folks understand how much water they're actually using.
And I think that's a good thing for people just to be aware of anyway, just, you know, it's a thing they can look at every month, not necessarily the cost of it, but then they can monitor and say, you know, do I really need that much water? And they can see what they can do to help it out. Right now, I don't have a meter, I don't know how much water I use.
Did you say all the meters would be installed in all the homes that need them within 6 months?
6 months after the project starts.
By
Yeah,
mid-2016.
Good till next year.
Kevin, have you seen any cities helping subsidize the cost to, say, retrofit your sprinkler system or anything like that? Have you seen any cities stepping forward and doing that type of thing?
Yeah, they do, and I think that's one of the things that Ted has on the list, as far as
okay.
a rebate program. We've talked about it with smart controllers or shower heads or different types of water-saving devices, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it's pretty typical.
okay.
The one item that I did miss is things that the city is doing or looking into is installing central controlled irrigation systems for our parks, not all of them. It's a very expensive process. I think the council has set aside $50,000 to do the first phase. We've evaluating all the different manufacturers out there, and we've got it picked, between two of them, and we're doing the fine tuning of selection, and we're going to get those in at our largest parks so that we can. The smart controllers will actually either use the internet or use a weather station to actually predict how much water everything needs at that day. So it automatically adjusts. We don't have to go out and change them. We don't have to make any changes. It's automatic, and it will save us a lot of time and money. So we are working on that.
How
Back to
about
the-
for residences? Do you see anything on the market that might fall into single homes where we could use the same type of technology to save water and
Yes.
monitor?
Yes, there is, and I'll touch bases with those in a little bit
thank you.
here. Some of the other things we can do for residential regulatory changes is limiting the frequency of washing vehicles. It's one of the things there's no limit on how often you can wash, it's just you have to have the automatic shut off on the hose. The other is prohibit excessive water use, and by doing that, we would need to adopt a definition, and there's some definitions out there. Tracy has one that I think we can adopt that actually specifies what is excessive water. Talks about, it runs off the sidewalk for a certain period of time, and it's something that we could, if we adopted that resolution and a restriction for the exclusive or excessive use, we could then implement fines. We currently don't have anything like that, so it's one of the things that we're recommending that we possibly do.
If we're going to bite the bullet like this, how about putting the same type of schedule on vehicles being washed rather than everybody sporadically doing it anytime they want? Just say, Saturdays in between, early in the morning, say 8 and 12 is when you can wash your car, period. And that way, we can monitor how much water they're using, and so that would be another idea.
Go to Modesto and have your car washed.
Exactly.
Well, I was gonna go out on a limb. Do a lot of people still wash their own cars?
Oh, yeah.
Do they?
That's
So,
one of the things I hear a lot from people is,
They wanna make sure they can still do that?
no, that people, I got one lady that's called me twice, because the gal across the street from her washes her car 3 times a week.
Well, I'm kinda with Dean. It costs you $7 or something like that to go get a wash.
we could actually go as far as banning it, but that's a pretty drastic approach.
Well, I think, or the first step might be, you can't do it except on the days you're designated for washing and during the hours when water can be used.
And on your lawn.
Well, some cities do that, you can't, you have to be on an absorbing surface.
No, I know. I'm laughing because it'd be kinda funny to see your car's lawn, but
There's
that's true.
people still out there watering off their driveways and stuff.
Hold on, how much more time do you need? We're down to 20 minutes. Mr. Stewart, did you want me to reserve some time? Do you have something
I'm just here to listen.
okay. How much time you need?
I probably have another 15 minutes, 10 to
Okay,
15.
boys,
So,
Quiet.
all right. Well,
calm down. Yes, I
large,
am.
large non-residential regulatory changes. The state has come in and said that large non-residential institutionals such as golf courses, schools, regional parks, cemeteries and such need to meet the conservation goals for the local jurisdiction, which means in our case 36%. So schools, golf courses, large commercial pieces are going to have to meet those requirements. This is difficult to meet because a lot of times they're not using city water. They may have their own wells and that, but we've got some ideas on how to meet that. And primarily, send notifications to the businesses or the institutions and explain to them they need to reduce. Something we haven't done before, but it is a requirement by the state that they meet those requirements. The other big component is education. So one of the things that we understand is necessary to get the message out. We are planning next Thursday on the 14th. We've scheduled a workshop for reducing water use of landscaping. The Master Gardener Program from San Joaquin County is going to be putting it on. They're doing it free of charge. And then on the 28th, we're going to have, they are also going to put on a seminar for the installation of drought-tolerant landscaping. And another program we've got kind of in the queue, we haven't set a date yet, is upgrading home irrigation systems to be more efficient, or more efficient systems. The other education component, talking about signage, putting banners. We've got a designated sites of a banner at the base of the Second Street overpass, jack tone at the bottom of the south side of the overpass, sign at Midland Sports Park, kind of pretty much as you come into town, so that you can get a lot of folks will see it. And then yard signs that we can place around in city right-of-ways and such to just keep the message alive. We plan on putting informational booths on at Balloon Festival, Main Street Days, and Almond Blossom Festival. Get those scheduled so we can get the word out. Notification of the water conservation mandates. Mail these out to all commercial schools, golf courses, and folks with private wells, and then notify the institutions of the conservation requirements from the state. We have not yet, we had plans on sending out flyers, but then with these new requirements, we didn't want to do that and confuse everybody by sending out, these are our current regulations. If the council decides to do so, make changes to those regulations, we didn't want to confuse the issue. So as soon as we come up with some, if we change the regulatory changes, we'll be notifying all residents and commercial folks. And then we're also planning on putting in monthly water bill inserts, just reminders, tips, how to save water and those things, just to keep it fresh in everybody's mind. Enforcement and rebates. The enforcement, I would like to introduce Ben. Ben, can you help me with your last name? Isganiz. Just started today. We've already had him out on the street, putting out warning notices. We're really looking forward to it. Ben is primary function be for patrolling for violations, hanging door hangers, citing when we need to do that, helping with the educational outreach, and doing potential water audits for folks that as we notify folks and they ask for our help, Ben will be able to go out there and take a look at their watering system, give them some suggestions of improvement, help them adjust their sprinkler timers. Ben comes from has a high background in irrigation controls and irrigation systems, so we're extremely lucky to have him. Rebates, we've had talked about rebates. Rebates, our feeling is the number one thing that would help out is getting folks, giving rebates for smart irrigation controllers for residents. We feel the majority of the water that's being wasted or that can be reduced is in landscaping, lawns and such. If one of the things we found from last year when we started implementing this, a lot of folks just don't understand their controllers. They don't make the necessary adjustments according to the season. They'll turn them on and have them set for the summer, and they turn them on in the spring and turn them off in the winter. They stays watering the same all year round. With a smart controller, they use a weather station, and they adjust accordingly to the ET, the actual needs of the plants. Shower heads, that was mentioned earlier. Shower heads, a lot of folks have changed out their shower heads. We thought it'd be good to possibly give rebates for actual replacements of shower heads. And things that we may look at in the future would be possible of replacing efficient sprinkler heads. Given a rebate per sprinkler head. It's not quite as simple as just changing the head. Sometimes it's kind of based on the design, so you have to kind of look at that and take that into consideration. But if folks change those out, you can sometimes get 30 to 40% efficiency change. And then in the future also, some cities are given rebates for appliances and plumbing fixtures. So those are things we may want to look into the future. You know, there's probably a limited amount of money to use to actually do this, but things to look for. The state actually did come in and implement the new requirements that all new home constructions cannot use potable water for irrigation without using drip or microspray systems. Drip and microspray systems pretty much are very low use water using irrigation system. There's, as far as I know, and Larry might be able to help me out, I don't believe that there's any microspray systems that could be used for turf. There's some subsurface technology that's out there that may qualify for it, but the state has specifically talked about drip and microsystems. It's my understanding the irrigation industry is right now working with the state trying to modify those definitions to include some of the more efficient spray heads, which then may allow you to put grass in, but to put grass in with microspray systems is very difficult. So all of our new homes are going to have pretty much no turf. We have met with the developers and trying to get some ideas, feedback from them how to implement this. Right now, without having a definition or knowing what the state's going to look at with more efficient spray heads, it looks like grass is out, but we're waiting to hear more, get some more feedback or some more direction from the state on that. But we have met with the developers. We're kind of on hold right now, but we will need to possibly implement those standards for all new homes, which it can be kind of difficult because you have to look at it and say how much. What's my community going to look like? Is it all going to look the same? What are we going to accept? Is it just going to be bark and on the ground, or is it rock? What is it that we're kind of going to expect from our developers? So we are working closely with them. This schedule for moving forward, the Water Board is actually is going to be approving. We haven't heard yet. It's real soon. It was supposed to schedule for 4th or 5th. We haven't heard yet, so my guess is they're still up discussing it. But those requirements will officially come into effect as soon as they adopt them, which will be here in the next probably week. For the city of Ripon to reduce or to implement additional reduction regulations, we would need to get approval, a resolution to add additional regulations if the council decides to, and then we'll make those conditions immediately, and then start notifying property owners and commercial businesses. So, and then also adopting new home landscape standards. That's all I have. If anybody has any questions.
I have one last question. I don't know if it ties to this or not, but there are some orchards in cities that, within city limits. Are those farmers subject to any city regulations, or are they excluded also because they're farmers?
The state didn't include them in their language. My guess is they probably aren't. I wouldn't think they would be, no. Kevin, would you?
I agree, they didn't point out any agriculture.
Yeah, ag other than, when it comes to well use, as of yet, I haven't heard any regulations prohibiting or limiting the amount of groundwater being used. However, the state is limiting the city's use. But schools and cemeteries and golf courses have to follow those regulations.
The state passed, the one thing the state did recently passed is the requirement to have a groundwater sustainability agency. And I think as that moves forward, what that agency is gonna do is begin looking at probably all kinds of pumping that happens within the aquifer. So that would include the ag pumping also. So my understanding of what that new groundwater regulation is it's coming.
Yes. Put another bureaucracy on top of
So
it.
at this point, we need a proposal from the staff as to what the water regulations ought to look like. How soon can you have that done?
You know, our thought is, assuming we're gonna hear back from the state tomorrow, you know, we would work on that right away and prepare that,
For the next meeting?
at least, if not sooner, yeah.
We need to get started. We can't just keep piddling around.
Depending what it is, one of the options that we've talked about is having a special meeting next week to approve those, depending on how quickly we need to react, but at the latest, the next meeting.
Speaking for myself, I don't have a problem with a special meeting. I think we ought to have a special meeting where it's presented, discussed, and you have an idea of what's going on, and then at the next regular meeting, the action's taken. I mean, I just think the community needs to have a shot at us before we do this, rather than we do it, and then we got all these people who don't understand, don't agree, wonder what this is. It's coming, there's no doubt about it. And if we had a meeting to consider that, with a proposal, with a discussion, even down to the point of a tentative adoption, that at least gives everybody a week to catch their breath and decide whether they're gonna complain about it. And we get it over with ahead of time, rather than chase that tail for the next 6 months, because people are upset about something that could have been changed.
And maybe give us some good
Give
input
us,
that we haven't
yeah,
thought about.
that's right. Does that make sense?
So are you talking about a public meeting, inviting the
Yes.
public?
I'm done there.
Well, how about if we could have some way of getting the word out to them? It's like tonight, I mean, this is a water situation. We have 3 people here. So I'd like to see maybe something in the paper, inviting the public, and maybe putting some of these things in there that's gonna show them how serious that we are, and maybe we'll get a little more of an audience.
Six minutes, boys. Mr. Parks?
We done?
I don't have a question, I just have a quick statement I want to make. I understand the role of government, and sometimes I even agree with it, that there are certain times that you need the government to step in and kind of regulate everything that's going on. But I have a fundamental problem with the fact that we are continuing to reach into people's lives and continuing to control their lives on a minute level, rather than taking the step of trying to increase our water capacity. I'm fully supportive of trying to conserve as much water as we possibly can and trying to maximize that. But I think we are not giving enough credence to the other side of the argument. And how do we increase our water capacity so that way we're not having to have these discussions and we're not having to take some of these drastic measures? And I know that the state is, as Mayor Zuber said, kind of chasing its tail on this issue. I think that at the local level, we need to look at what we can do to increase our water capacity. And I know that we have very, very limited resources into the actions that we can take, but I think that we need to start having that discussion now in the spring, so that way in the winter, when we do actually have rain, we have some of these measures in place that we can help increase as much water capacity as we have. So it's just a fundamental philosophy I have, that the less the state is involved in people's lives, the better. And I think that that's something that we need to look at, whether it's through this, our water reduction regulatory agency. But it's a discussion that if the state isn't gonna have it, then we need to take it upon ourselves at the local level to start having this discussion.
Mr. Winchell?
I agree with Jake, we do need to increase our water capacity. The thing that gets me is we're in the fourth year of a drought, the worst drought probably in recorded history of California. We're in the 11th hour, and so we're down to huge fines. I would have liked to have seen the state a little bit more proactive. I mean, maybe after the third year of the drought, but that didn't happen. So now we find us, I've seen the reservoirs, they are terrible. New Melones, Don Pedro, McClure. McClure looked like the Grand Canyon 2-3 years ago. Don Pedro, it doesn't look terrible, but it's close to terrible, and I hear New Melones is terrible as well. So here we are waiting till the last minute to throw all these tough things at the public and tough decisions. I think we need to be a little more proactive to this, whether, you know, I came here in the 70s and I saw a lot of snow, I did a lot of skiing. I mean, I haven't seen that, and I think the weather we're seeing now is going to be here for the future, and I think we definitely need to do some stuff about this. That's all I wanted to say.
I just have a couple things, and then I'm gonna end this. I don't necessarily disagree with Mr. Parks or Mr. Winchell, but I think it's two separate issues. The issue of increasing capacity and stuff is beyond us. We have what we have. We're literally given what we're given by nature. And the only way we can conserve it is to use less. We can't put it back. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. Building 2 huge reservoirs in California isn't gonna do anything for the availability of water in Ripon, California. And we have to get past that and deal with this. I don't like intruding in people's lives, but we have to. We're all in this together. And if we aren't careful, we're gonna wake up one day and we're permanently gonna be out of water. There are places in this state that are already in that boat. This is sort of, in my experience, this is sort of a characteristic of being an American. We don't do anything until it's a crisis. We expect things to get better, and until we're convinced that they won't, we don't do anything. Well, and there are people that I talk to every day, they still don't think this is a problem. They think they're gonna wake up one morning in May of 2016 and this problem is gonna be gone. And we have, I don't think it will. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think it will. And we've got to get going. When you do your little report, I got a couple of questions I'd like to have you answer. One, are we being expected to meet a monthly reduction of 36%? That's important. I don't need an answer now, I'm just, number 2, the state says we're supposed to have tiered rates. There's a court decision that says we can't have tiered rates. So that needs to be resolved. Also, I'd like some little clarification of what potable means. Because in some communities, non-potable water means reclaimed water. And we don't have any of that. What we consider non-potable water is water we can't drink, but it's still being pumped out of the ground. And I think we need to find out how the state's viewing that, because if we're being held accountable for our potable and non-potable water, we got a problem. Our problem just got a lot worse. That's it. Thank you. I appreciate the
Very nice, Ted.
time and effort that you put into this. It was informative. I think it gives us I know for me, it gives me a very good appreciation of just where we are and the kinds of things we got to look forward to. We've got to get started on it.
Just really quick, not part of this, but.
Okay.
When I was back in DC, Texas had the same problem, and they addressed it up front and got it taken care of, the state of Texas, so kinda depends on, I guess, who's running the state. So let me just leave it at that.
Okay. Does anybody need a break before we go into the
Yes.
regular meeting?
Yeah, quick one.
All right. 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
I took my break before.
What do you expect me to do?